Nietzsche said the higher man does not seek approval, he becomes unreachable. Most men reading that think it means stoicism, cold discipline, some kind of monk routine. But there's a darker, more practical truth buried in it. The moment you stop being available, you stop being taken for granted. And the moment you stop being taken for granted, the entire social dynamic around you shifts. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why strategic disappearance rewires how people perceive you, why the men who master this become more attractive, more respected, and more feared, and you'll have a concrete framework to apply it without burning your life down. Constant availability is social suicide. The man who is always there is never truly valued. Think about the guy in your friend group who responds to every message in under a minute, shows up to every hangout, never says no. Everyone likes him in theory. But nobody respects him in practice. He's background noise. Compare that to the one guy who's hard to pin down. When he shows up, the room adjusts. This isn't coincidence. Schopenhauer wrote about the porcupine dilemma, creatures that need warmth but wound each other when too close. The solution isn't to stay apart forever, it's to learn the right distance. Constant availability collapses that distance entirely. When you're always accessible, you remove scarcity. Human psychology, driven by evolutionary wiring, assigns low value to abundant resources and high value to scarce ones. This isn't cruelty. It's just how the brain processes social worth. You are a resource. When you make yourself infinite, you make yourself worthless. Disappearing isn't avoidance, it's a recalibration of your internal baseline. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire and wrote in his private journal, The Meditations, about withdrawing into himself daily. Not to escape, but to reset. He called it returning to the inner citadel. He was surrounded by millions, responsible for everything, and yet he practiced deliberate mental and social withdrawal. Modern equivalent, the man who stops doom-scrolling group chats, stops attending every optional social obligation, stops performing enthusiasm he doesn't feel. 6 months later, people describe him as different. More grounded. More himself. Every social interaction costs cognitive bandwidth. When you're overextended socially, you start performing a version of yourself rather than being yourself. The ghost phase, even a small one, a week, a month, lets the performed identity fall away. What's left is quieter, denser, more real. People feel that density. They can't name it, but they're drawn to it. The social ghost creates a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. Camus wrote about the absurd, the gap between what humans demand of the universe and what the universe offers in silence. There's a social version of this. When you go quiet, people project onto that silence. They fill it with their own narratives, their own anxieties, their own curiosity. A man who never posts, rarely texts back, declines invitations without explanation, he becomes a mystery. And mystery is the engine of obsession. Look at historical figures like J.D. Salinger, who vanished from public life after Catcher in the Rye. The silence didn't erase him. It amplified him. He became a myth. Social withdrawal activates what psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. The brain fixates on incomplete experiences. When you're fully present, fully explained, fully available, the story is closed. People move on. When you disappear mid-sentence, socially speaking, the story stays open. Their attention loops back to you without you doing anything. You become the unresolved chord. Most men disappear reactively. The ones who win do it proactively. There are two versions of the social ghost. Version 1, the man who ghosts because he's been hurt, embarrassed, burned out. He disappears out of wound, not wisdom. He's hiding, not recalibrating. His silence broadcasts pain. People sense it. Version 2, the man who ghosts on his own terms, after success, after a decision, after choosing his next level. Think of Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers. He controlled only what he could control, his responses, his presence, his attention. He didn't react to social pressure. He designed his own terms of engagement. The proactive ghost chooses his silence like a weapon, not a wound. Reactive withdrawal is a fear response. Proactive withdrawal is an identity statement. The difference is internal but visible externally in posture, tone, and timing. When you disappear on your terms, not fleeing something but moving towards something, the absence carries authority. People don't pity you. They respect you. They wait for you. The return from the ghost phase is where the real leverage lives. Viktor Frankl survived Nazi concentration camps and wrote Man's Search for Meaning, the idea that humans can endure anything if they have a reason for it. The men who came through intact weren't the strongest physically. They were the ones with an internal narrative that gave their suffering direction. The ghost phase only works if you use the silence productively, building, reading, training, creating. When you return changed. Think about any man in your life who disappeared for a year and came back. If he used that time, the difference is palpable. The ones who just hid came back smaller. The ones who used it came back with gravity. The return creates a reference point. People measure the man against who he was when he left. If the delta is visibly sharper, calmer, more focused, the recalibration is complete. This isn't about performance or showing off the transformation. It's the natural result of using solitude correctly. Frankl called it noogenic tension, the gap between who you are and who you need to become. The ghost phase is how you close that gap. 3 things to take from this. 1. Constant availability destroys your social value. Scarcity is not cruelty, it's basic human psychology, and you can work with it or get worked over by it. 2. Disappearing proactively is a fundamentally different act than disappearing reactively. One is power, one is pain, and the distinction is entirely internal. 3. The ghost phase is only as good as what you do inside it. Silence without substance is just hiding, but silence with direction is transformation. The social ghost isn't a loner. He's a man who understands that presence is a resource, and like any resource, it becomes valuable only when it's not wasted. If this hit different, subscribe. We drop one of these every Tuesday and Friday, no filler, no motivation poster nonsense, just the psychological and philosophical frameworks that actually explain how men operate, and how to operate better. Hit the bell if you want it in your feed the moment it drops.